As with any storied entertainment franchise, there are so many fascinating things to find out about the making of Doctor Who. It's like Wester Drumlins or Gabriel Chase, a creaky old house full of secrets just waiting to be uncovered. So, let's uncover some. I'm Ellie for WhoCulture here with 10 Doctor Who behind-the-scenes secrets you need to know. Number 10. Code names keep things quiet. Doctor Who is one of the most scrutinised shows in the world, and both the press and fans alike want to know what the next big scoop is going to be. So, certain measures are taken to keep things hush-hush, including a tactic the Doctor themselves would be proud of: fake names. Before the 12th Doctor's new companion, Bill Potts, was officially revealed, the role was known as Mean Town behind the scenes. That's an anagram of 10 woman, as Bill was the 10th companion of the 10th modern series. Sneaky. Jenna Coleman and Karen Gillan had to tell their family and friends they were auditioning for shows called Men on Waves and Panic Moon, respectively. Men on Waves is an anagram of Woman 7, since Coleman was auditioning for Series 7, and Panic Moon is the word companion scrambled up. And if you think all of this is ridiculous, then just remember that this is a show that made an entire spin-off based on an anagram. And if you think that's ridiculous, just remember that Russell T Davies had an almighty god hire a graphic designer to put together a swanky anagram reveal PowerPoint presentation, rather than just, killing everyone straight away. Doctor Who. Please never change. Number 9. The Candyman versus Bertie Basset. The Candyman was an android made of candy, and not even the good stuff either. Licorice all sorts. They're disgusting. You give us a robot made of gummy bears, now then we'll talk. Licorice all sorts? Really? In the 7th Doctor serial The Happiness Patrol, the Tardis drops in on a society where sadness is punishable by death. The Candyman adds to this subversion, as he may look sweet on the outside, but he's actually an unstoppable killing machine. Well, unless you have some lemonade handy. In reality, he was defeated by a much more terrifying prospect: a lawsuit. After part 2 of the serial went out, the show got a letter from H.B. Stokes, chairman of confectionery company Basset. Stokes pointed out that the Candyman bore a striking resemblance to his company's mascot Bertie Basset, who was also an anthropomorphized pile of sweets. Even though Doctor Who was cleared by the BBC copyright department, it was promised that the Candyman would never appear in the show again. So for those of us who've been gunning for his return since 2005, unfortunately we're out of luck. Genuinely, I'd love to see the Candyman return. Number 8. Not everything is an original creation. Doctor Who has utilised so many props and costume pieces over the decades, but did you know that many of them actually belonged to the actors? The 3rd Doctor's weird hovercraft car, the Whomobile, wasn't built by the props department. It was brought in by John Pertwee, who had personally commissioned it himself. It was also Pertwee who gave it the name Whomobile. Oh, we love you, John, but maybe stick to the acting, eh? Though not nearly as impressive as having an entire car built, David Tennant also brought his own possessions to the character. The 10th Doctor's iconic Converse shoes were Tennant's idea, and for the first few episodes he wore his own pair. This is why they look so battered. He'd been using them for years already. Best of all though is the 12th Doctor's ring. Peter Capaldi didn't want to remove his wedding band during filming, and so a special prop ring was created to cover his band while in character. Now in-universe, the ring contains a stone of green amber from the planet Ratsacoricophalopatorius, which I know full well has been put in my script because they wanted to catch me out, so said it first time. And it's said to remind the Doctor of all the wars that he has won, but also all the lives that he has taken. Number 7. The TV movie's Alist aspirations. The 1996 TV movie is an odd thing. It was an American co-production, which is strange enough for Doctor Who. It went through so many iterations during development, including one where the Doctor and the Master were half-brothers and Barusa was the Doctor's gramps. Fair enough. At points, it was also aiming to be much more of a blockbuster event than it ended up being. This is largely down to some of the insane A-list names Philip Segal and Peter Wagg, the project's original spearheads, had considered to star in and direct this new era of Doctor Who. Ray Fiennes, Hugh Grant, Sean Bean, Ian McKellen, Rowan Atkinson. A number of actors of all shapes and sizes were longlisted to play the part, some of whom would end up in Who further down the line. Christopher Eccleston, Peter Capaldi and John Hurt were considered, as were Timothy Dalton, Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi. Weirdly, a number of actors from the comic relief sketch Curse of Fatal Death were also put forward, including Jonathan Pryce, Hugh Grant and Rowan Atkinson. Other potential candidates range from Patrick Stewart to Hugh Laurie, Peter O'Toole to Jim Broadbent, to perhaps the biggest missed opportunity of all, Tim Curry. Can you imagine a time-travelling Dr. Frankenfurter running around on screen? That would have saved the show for sure. Number 6. The Sounds of Time and Space. There are just as many legendary sound effects in Doctor Who as there are heroes, villains, and planets. But how do they all get made? That beautiful whoosh whoosh that has started so many great adventures over the years, also known as the sound of the Tardis materializing, was created by scraping a key along a piano wire. This masterstroke was the idea of Brian Hodgson, who came up with many of the early sound effects for Doctor Who, including the voice of the Daleks. Hodgson had previously worked on a children's radio show where he'd voiced a robot butler using a ring modulation system, and when the time came for the Doctor's greatest enemies to speak, he reused this technique and instructed voice artist Peter Hawkins to give a monotone delivery, and thus TV history was made. Hodgson used all sorts of unusual things to create the Doctor Who soundscape. One rumour goes that he got the roar of a Yeti from a flushing toilet, which may be a myth, but it's also a really funny myth. Number 5. Actor reuse goes deeper than you realise. We all know that Doctor Who likes to reuse actors. Freema Agyeman in Army of Ghosts, David Bradley in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Hell, Fires of Pompeii has both a future Doctor and future companion in it. Big names aside though, this happens way more than you think, and it's so sneaky that you probably didn't even realise they were doing it. Remember All Ears Alan from Fugitive of the Jadoon, the nosy barista who fancies Ruth? Well, Michael Bedgley, or Begley, I apologise, I don't know how to say his name, but the actor who plays him had previously portrayed the pirate Mulligan in The Curse of the Black Spot. Mark Dexter, who played Cal's dad in the Library two-parter, turned up 12 years later in Spyfall Part 2 as Victorian inventor Charles Babbage. Both Prem from Demons of the Punjab and the PE teacher from the God Complex previously appeared in Tardis 12. Yeah, remember those? A prelude to Army of Ghosts. And then there's the curious case of Lara Philippart. The young Lara not only played a member of the extended Connolly family in The Idiot's Lantern, but she also appeared in a main role in the Torchwood episode Small Worlds as a girl obsessed with fairies. Serious brownie points if you spotted that one. And I'm fairly certain there are plenty more, so let us know if you spotted any more in the comments down below. Number 4. Fake cast members help maintain surprises. When they aren't making their actors play 17 different characters at once, the Doctor Who team are changing their names to prevent spoilers. In the days of Classic Who, publications like the Radio Times were the primary source of information about upcoming episodes. So, not wanting to reveal that Davros was back in 1988's Remembrance of the Daleks, the BBC provided a cast list for the magazine which contained Roy Tromelli, an anagram of Davros actor Terry Malloy. The character most affected by this practice is the Master, which makes sense as they've made more random appearances over the years than Stan Lee in the MCU. Fifth Doctor serial The King's Demons reportedly starred someone called James Stoker, an anagram of Master's Joke, a cheeky way to obscure the fact that the Master was set to appear. This also happened with Castrovalva, where the Master's disguise, Portreeve, was credited as being played by Neil Toynay, a codename for Master actor Tony Ainley. More recently, the series 12 finale cast list contained a character called Fakout, played by Barak Stemis, which when rearranged spells Master is back. That one wasn't quite as sneaky as the rest. Number 3. Most weeping angels aren't props. The Weeping Angels aren't just a genius monster design, they're also an absolute godsend for the Doctor Who casting department. Monsters that are rarely shown moving and take the form of a bunch of generic statues? Perfect! Who needs extras when you can just replace them with props? Sure, the unions might have a thing or two to say about that, but sorry, what's that? The angels are barely ever props? What the hell? In the commentary for his episode Blink, writer Stephen Moffat revealed that just 2 of the angels seen in the episode were fake. The rest of them were played by actual actors who had to master the art of standing still and looking menacing. After this first go, it made sense for even more actors to be hired for the Angels' next appearance in Series 5, as there were more of them on screen and they actually got to move on camera this time. According to some of the extras in The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone, the rubber angel suits were actually quite comfortable, although they may have just been saying that so they didn't hurt anyone's feelings, let's be honest. It is quite funny that a show that's always been accused of having fake-looking monsters and wobbly sets actually went to the effort of hiring skilled performers to play a monster that could have easily been achieved with a basic statue prop. Number 2. Doctors aren't paid as much as you think. When you take on the role of Doctor Who, you don't do it for the money. You do it to be part of an institution, to etch your name into the history books, and to be an inspiration to millions everywhere as a beacon of hope and morality in a cruel and depressive world. But also the money. When William Hartnell took on the role of the First Doctor, TV stars weren't the same glamorous celebrities they are today, and as a result, he was earning a salary of £315 per episode by 1966, around $7 grand today. That's barely enough to keep him in his fancy necktie. rise. Meanwhile, many years into the future, Peter Capaldi's earnings were between £200,000 and £250,000 towards the end of his run. Now that may sound like a lot, but when you consider that Danny Dyer got a similar amount for being in EastEnders, it doesn't look quite as flashy. And when Jodie Whittaker was revealed as Capaldi's replacement, it was announced that she would be earning the same amount as her predecessor. And while this was great news for gender equality, you can't help but wonder if Jodie was kicking herself for not trying her luck in Albert Square. And speaking of salaries, we do have a video breaking down what all the doctors have made, so make sure you check that out as well. Number 1. The first regeneration was an accident. Regeneration might have looked a lot different were it not for a bit of luck in the BBC tech department. You all know the story by now. William Hartnell's health was declining, so the showrunners came up with a genius way of replacing him without killing off the main character. In a now legendary scene, Hartnell collapsed to the floor and his face slowly faded away to be replaced by Patrick Troughton's. This effect was the result of a faulty mixing desk, which caused whichever images were passing through it to become overexposed. Vision mixer Shirley Coward thought that creating a whiteout would be a great way to hide the transition between the actors, and that's precisely what happened. Thank God she said something, because the initial plan for this scene was, well, let's be kind and just say it was not as good. Originally, Hartnell was supposed to fall down with his cloak covering his face, which would have been then the end of his Doctor, and next time the cloak would be removed to reveal Troughton. I wonder how Bi-Generation would have looked if hoods and cloaks were the chosen transition device. Interesting. And there you have it, but if you want some more secrets, then why not check out Secrets of the Sonic Screwdriver? In the meantime, I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.